Hello, everyone. I'm currently outside right now, so if you hear birds chirping in the background, there's really nothing I can do with that, so just bear with it if you can. It's the only place where, on the weekends at least, on campus, where I can get a modicum of privacy. But I just wanted to rant. Uh, I posted a video probably about a week ago, and the video was titled "Female Rape Fantasy is Not What It Seems." And I posted that video, and in my inbox, I think, I don't even remember if it was in my inbox or maybe somebody submitted it to Men's Rights Reddit. Somebody commented somewhere about how he couldn't take the video seriously because he implied that I was pretty much going on conjecture, and it's funny because I say this in the video. My question to certain people who hold this idea that science is some kind of fact machine that you just input questions and it spits out answers. My question to people who leave these kind of comments on videos dealing with Evo-Psych, evolutionary psychology, is how exactly would we test this theory here? If I'm implying that women have these fantasies due to some primordial drive established hundreds of millions of years ago in the theater of early hominid evolution, if I'm to imply that, and if you don't believe it and you want to test it, where possibly could you furnish the trillions of degrees required to first create another planet Earth, and how possibly could you set up the conditions of the test so that all variables are in place, simulating exactly how our species developed hundreds of millions of years into the distant past? I get really annoyed with people who talk about science like it's some kind of end-all be-all. I mean, they look at it almost with this religious awe. Science is something that humans created. It's not as special as you would think. What science is a tool. I mean, the mechanic is going to utilize a wrench when he needs to unscrew some bolt in a car engine, right? I mean, it makes sense, right? Science doesn't do us any favors. It doesn't have a life of its own. Scientific discovery is impossible without the creativity and intuition of the human mind. Without human creativity, it would be impossible for science to have any effective purpose. It would be rendered ineffectual and impotent. As much as I distrust mega corporations such as the Dow Company, they made a series of commercials, I think about a year and a half ago, or maybe even 2 or 3 years ago. I don't remember exactly when they were released, but they had a series of commercials where they were talking about what they referred to as the human element. And so they had a little mock periodic table set up, and they had the letter H there representing the human element. And they were talking about the spark of intuition and how that's the real driver of scientific discovery and achievement. People forget that science is there to serve us. It is our creation. We wield it in whichever manner we see fit. So, there are certain things that you just can't test, and evolutionary psychology is one of them. And in fact, evolutionary psychology really isn't a science at all. It's more of a evolutionary questionnaire at best. It's nothing special. It's nothing that can be pinned down, tested, and scrutinized. We're pretty much making it up as we go. In order to test evolutionary psychology, you would have to furnish the exact conditions of early human development. And to be perfectly honest, we have no idea just exactly what was going on during our development as human beings, or during early human development. None of us were there. All of this is speculative. So if the evolutionary theory in regards to hominid development is shaky and murky, what do you think evolutionary psychology is? What sort of testing apparatus do we have to juxtapose that with the way men and women behave towards each other in modern day society? We don't. We don't have any test rubric or measurements or any standards to compare to, and we likely never will. So with that said, what I'm doing with a video such as my analysis on the female tendency to take part in rape fantasy is creating an inquiry. And that's all we can really do, is to cultivate thought. That's all you can really do in terms of evolutionary psychology. We'll never have the answers, really. What's more important is how we move forward. And I don't know if I've ever specifically delineated my purpose for this channel. What men going their own way is, when you boil it down to its bare essentials, is biological override. There's nothing quite as liberating as surpassing your gender's limitations or biological primordial urges. That's what we intend to do here. I don't know if it's ever been attempted, but that's what we're doing here now. Women haven't really achieved it. You know, we talk about gender liberation or female liberation. Of course, we all know that that doesn't exist. They were essentially giving a movement that was curtailed and customized, a unique cocktail of social changes that tickled the fancy of the base desires of women. There was nothing liberating about it. They're essentially still relegated to being slaves to their biological drives, and so are men for the most part. But the invention of men going their own way as a philosophy is something that seriously takes a look at your biological drives, analyzes them, appreciates them for what they are, and then asks, well, what comes next? Where are we going from here? The truth is, none of us know. Human intelligence is something that, well, let me just describe to you what happens when I think. When I think, there is certainly an upper limit to my thought process, and I can, for example, if I'm trying to conceptualize some mathematical function and I'm trying to see it in my head, there's only so much processing power in my brain, and I'm literally visualizing the function unit by unit on the x-axis and how it's changing on the y. And then when it's a sufficiently complex function, I will reach a point where the visual analysis in my head starts to get murky, and I start to see what can only be described as shadows or something. Some kind of something goes on, and there's a very real upper limit to my ability to visualize things in my own head. Things get shadowy. You know, you lose track of what you're focusing on. And what we're essentially trying to do with men going their own way is we're trying to peer into that mysterious, shadowy part where we can no longer conceptualize things, and we're trying to sustain our analysis of it for as long as possible. It's an exercise in biological override and how long we can keep it going. How long we can keep the dynamo spinning on its axis. We're peering into our base biological drives and asking questions about why this happens, why we are this way. It's the only way we'll ever truly be able to change. You know, all this talk about evolutionary psychology, but we never really have come to terms with the fact that now our species, and I don't even really like the term species, I think when it really boils down to it, we're a lot more than that. We're not just animals. The very fact that this conversation is taking place proves it, in my opinion. But that's a whole nother discussion. This talk about evolutionary psychology never really touches on the fact that we now live in a time where one watershed moment of human brilliance can change the course of evolution forever. Going on evolutionary theory, we make the assumption that we have been evolving to a certain point in time on a linear scale. And our development has followed the path of a linear function with a set slope that increments at a set rate. Our rate of development has been fixed. We have, in the last 50 years, produced specimens of humanity that were capable in one fell swoop of changing the course of human history. We split the atom in the last 100 years. And in that very instant, our development as human beings, especially in our capacity for understanding, I think, started at that very point in time to follow an exponential path. The amount of advancement that we have achieved in the last 100 years exceeds the totality of our scientific discovery since the dawn of civilization, since the dawn of humanity. So there is now a very real possibility that we can start tinkering at exactly what it means to be human, and specifically exactly what it means to be male, and start superseding those parameters. I won't say it's, you have to be very careful, because it can seem at times as though we are now poised on the path to godhood, but I shy away from that kind of thing. Human beings aren't meant to be gods. We are we are fallible creatures, in my honest opinion. Some people disagree, but we are definitely poised on the brink of something special here, something big. Something big is happening now, and with that, you know, I know to some people this might sound like I'm having delusions of grandeur here, but I really believe that what we're doing here, what Men Going Their Own Way is doing, is peering into the male soul, the male essence, and analyzing it for the first time in human history. The feminist movement wasn't some sort of gender liberation for women. They haven't achieved what we have, what men have yet. You know, I'm proud to be male. I enjoy being male. I appreciate it. I like being a man. And I think that it's time we start improving on manhood. So what the main goal is to start asking ourselves what it means to be male, so that we could start tinkering around with what it means to be post-male, an improvement on masculinity. So I guess that's all I really got to say for now. I'll post this on my new channel. I'll make a channel, Barbarossa Rants or something like that. I haven't even made it yet, but maybe I'll do it tonight. Thanks for listening.